Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel, here to recap Texas Pro Day. A long day on the 40 today, CJ, and it ends with Pro Day. Let's start. I want to get your biggest takeaway. It's probably going to start with Quinn Ewers. Started out hot, just really, really good, dialed in on that script. I don't know if it was arm fatigue or what happened, but his ball kind of fluttered late. So I don't know that Quinn necessarily helped himself today, but I don't think he hurt himself either. So it's kind of stock neutral for me on Quinn after today.
Yeah, I think the concerns coming into today are the concerns that you're going to have leaving today, right? The strengths that we knew of Quinn Ewers within 20 yards, maybe that 25 range he's really good. He's a really good quarterback. Beyond that, and we saw that today, evidently, there's not that consistency that you'd like to see. But ultimately, again, I'll start with this. He threw to 6 receivers when you count the 2 running backs, a tight end, 3 wide receivers. You get a lot of passes out there, right? Mm-hmm. He threw a lot of passes really quickly, I would say. And for the first 30, 35 passes, I thought, Jeff, he was tremendous.
Yeah, he was on point.
When I say 100%. Tremendous, I'm saying he probably put the ball – there are 2 incompletions that I saw within the first 30, 35 passes. A drop by Juan Davis and a drop down the sideline, I believe, by Silas Bolden.
I think so, yeah.
But beyond that, if there's a receiver running a route across the field, that ball was here or that ball was right here. Like, it was a very catchable pass, and it was very consistent for Quinn to start.
Matthew Golden had a really strong day, and a lot of that had to do with Quinn Ewers. And I think when you look at the pecking order for the quarterbacks, like you said, I don't know that Quinn did enough to move himself up, but I don't think he did enough to his detriment to where he's going to tumble or anything. I think he's kind of right where he was at the end of the day. As we get into talking about the offensive skill guys, I came away really impressed with the wide receivers on this team. I mean, look, we've seen all these guys work in games, but whether it was Matthew Golden, who just most of the guys, they did the on-field drills. Isaiah Bond ran, he verticaled and did the 40 and ran a 4.34. I thought Isaiah Bond had a good day. I thought Silas Bolden had a great day and spent the end of the day catching punts. So I thought helped his draft stock a lot. I heard, Mike Vrabel and a lot of coaches from the Patriots were here. I heard the Patriots were really interested in him. He turned some heads. So I think it starts, CJ, with those 3 guys. Specifically, I think Silas Bolden getting himself in a position where I think he's probably squarely in that priority free agent mix.
Yeah, absolutely. I sat on the sideline next to a couple former and current players, a couple current DBs actually, who were sitting there watching the routes and kind of muttering to themselves, man, I'm glad I don't have to see that in practice every day. But point being, I don't know if there's a group of skill players, a group of wide receivers that these scouts, head coaches, and executives are going to go see that's faster. And that was the main takeaway for me is, look, 4.29 Matthew Golden, 4.34 today for Isaiah Bond, 4.38. How about that for Silas Bolden? We were talking about him running fast. And, of course, Jaydon Blue, we'll get to him here in a bit, but timing again in the mid-4.2s, that is a heck of a group. And the speed, the transitions, the route runnings, all of that was on display today. Great group for the wide receivers in my eyes.
Some of that has to be God-given, but I like that Silas Bolden, after Pro Day, he said, hey, that's all Torrey Beckton.
Yeah.
So a lot of praise for the Texas strength conditioning staff today by the guys that are going on to the league. And you mentioned Jaydon Blue, and he talked at length about his groin issue that kind of flared up before he went to the combine. Came out today, ran a 4.28 and a 4.25 unofficially. He's got some intriguing top 30 visits coming up. He's going to meet with the Eagles. He's going to meet with the Broncos. I think he's got 3 or 4 more. Isaiah Bond talked about he's got 5 or 6 top 30 visits coming up. But Jaydon Blue, CJ, before the combine, we saw mock drafts where he was in that, 3rd round range. I think Jaydon Blue's probably at the point where somebody's going to take him in the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah, I think so. And you could kind of sense he was disappointed with that Indianapolis time, right? I talked to him briefly. He said, look, to come back out here today, run 4.25, 4.28, that's kind of the range in which he was expecting. Because, again, in testing and in preparation for the combine, he was clearing those 4.2 numbers. And to his point about the comment that he made in Indianapolis, I don't think you just make that unless you have something to back it up testing-wise. He said he felt he had a strain in the groin, and MRI actually determined that there was a minor tear to the groin. Obviously, he recovered well in that time since Indianapolis and put together quite a time that I think we all kind of expected more so to be accurate behind the scenes than what he did run in Indianapolis.
Yeah, so the versatility that he brings to the table is what the teams he's met with seem to really like about him. there's a lot of buzz about him in the Broncos. Sean Payton, we saw him with Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, that joker role in his offense. Jaydon Blue seems to be a guy they've kind of pegged for that role if they decide to take a running back and take Jaydon Blue at some point in the draft. So really good day. And even, you go to the tight ends and the offensive linemen. Good news was Cam Williams said he's going to be able to work out for teams in about 2 weeks, coming off the knee injury. So he'll get to at least do something before the combine starts, before the draft. And then Gunnar Helm, he didn't get to run today, but, recovering from that ankle injury, he's still powering through it. And he said for the most part, teams have been encouraged by the fact that he's actually been willing to go out and compete. Basically, they haven't held the bad 40 time in Indianapolis, haven't held that against him. The ankle injury was pretty gnarly, and he's recovered from it, just not well enough to run the 40, I think, like he'd want to.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Knowing Gunnar for these past few years, right, you get to sense the competitiveness. He said, look, I didn't want the photo originally out of my ankle to be used as an excuse for a poor time, but when your ankle looks as black and blue as it did, I think it's a fair justification as to why the times were what they were. But he wore a little brace today, but I don't think, Jeff, that time that was on display in Indianapolis is going to be indicative of where he goes in the draft. I think more so what you see with him on tape, the explosiveness with those hurdles that we talked about all season long, that will be what lands him eventually where he ends up. And I think that's going to be a safe pick, probably around tight end 5 or so in that range.
Yeah. Hayden Connor worked out today. Jake Majors worked out today. Talked to Jake afterwards, and I don't think he's really stressing about the draft process. He's just kind of letting it come to him. Didn't get to speak to Kelvin Banks. Quinn Ewers didn't do media afterwards either. Both those guys left, but I think Kelvin's stock is what it is. He's going to go in the first round somewhere. Do teams overthink it and let him fall into the 20s? Tell you what, a big contingent from the Houston Texans today, including a couple of lifetime Longhorns, Rod Wright and Frank Okam, who are on that coaching staff. Probably disappointed that they didn't get to see Alfred Collins work out because he was in a boot. But, Matthew Golden and Kelvin Banks are two guys that are on the Texans' radar for their first-round pick. So I think both those guys helped themselves. And, going over to defense, CJ, the defensive backs were finishing up when we came to record this video. Linebackers still had to go, which was Maurice Blackwell and David Benda. But the guy that helped himself the most on defense, similar to Silas Bolden getting himself in that priority free agent mix, I think Gavin Holmes has himself in the discussion as a priority free agent. 39 inches on the vertical jump, sub 4.4 on the 40, looked explosive. We know he's not a great run support corner, very good man cover corner. So it's going to have to be special teams. How does he fit into a team as maybe a 5th, 6th defensive back, however many, corners the team wants to carry. But Gavin Holmes is the name. This is the benefit of having all 32 teams. And, head coaches today, we mentioned Mike Vrabel from the Patriots. Kellen Moore of the Saints was there today.
D'Amico Ryan's in town.
Yeah,
Ryan Poles, the GM of the Bears. Caserio as well. Eric Bieniemy, who former Commanders head coach. Look, a lot of guys. This is kind of what we expected with the 3 head coaches a year ago. These names start to file up and up and up.
Yeah.
And
Brian Gutekunst, the Packers GM, was there. Les Snead, the Rams GM.
And that just follows that conversation. And before we move, I want to make a point about Holmes here in a minute, but that follows the conversation. You have a quarterback that's looking to be a day 2 pick. You got 3 guys that are in contention for a first-round pick. And then this just helps a Silas Bolden, a Mo Blackwell, a David Benda, a Bill Norton, who I thought put together a pretty solid day, 25 reps on the bench press. That's a heck of a number. But that's what you get, right? You reap the rewards there, and all these guys come to see them, and obviously you find little bits and pieces of who else this might attract. But going back to Gavin Holmes and the day that he had, look, you're now at what, 5, 6 consecutive portal players that have put together incredible combines for the Texas Longhorns, starting with A.D. Mitchell and obviously Matthew Golden. Silas Bolden, another one who put together a great day today. Isaiah Bond. Texas is finding these elite caliber athletes out of the portal and complementing and supplementing really that Texas roster rather than coming in and having it completely overhauled. And you're seeing it today in, obviously the last 2 seasons.
Let's give the former staff and the current staff some credit. They both get credit for Brendan Schooler.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and he's an all-pro as a special teamer in the league now. So, yeah, you can come to Texas and everybody Jake Major said it, everybody's path is going to be different. Not everybody's going to take the same path. But the fact that there are plenty of eyes in the NFL on Texas now, this is a must stop, if for lack of a better term, on this pro day circuit for these scouts and GMs and head coaches. Hey, we've got to go to Texas. You got to check out a practice this morning. We get pro day in the afternoon, and they're going to go back with some really good feedback on what's going on the 40 acres. And CJ, as we wrap it up, with today being the first day of spring ball, we got to see some of the younger guys in the program just kind of walking around. Yes, Arch was at the pro day for a little bit, but got to see some of the younger guys walking around. And I'll tell you what, man, of the guys that really impressed me, Trevor Gooseby gets more impressive, I think, every time I see him. And of the young guys, though, the newcomers, man, James Simon looks like a dude. I know Jerry Hamilton. Jerry's a big James Simon fan. He's got me believing in James Simon. Yeah. I think of all the guys that I saw just kind of walk by me that were there today, a lot of impressive guys, but James Simon's one of the ones that kind of did a double take for a running back. Really, really good build.
Yeah, absolutely. James Simon was one. I'll point to both edges who, we're certainly excited about. Yeah. Smith and Rogbo had a little splint on a foot. Obviously, he's not expected to participate this spring, but Lance Jackson, just seeing both of them at this level of their development, because again, you see Zena Umeozulu walk in a few minutes later and you're like, dang, he looks like a guy that's been here for 4 years. And we know that's not the case, but these guys are so physically advanced for their age early on, especially at the end position, Jeff, that I don't even need to bring up Colin Simmons. We all know what he's looking like, and that room's filling out just fine.
Yeah. We saw, Quandre Diggs was there. There are a lot of former players. But Charles Omenihu was in the house today, and seeing Zena and then seeing Charles, because Charles got there right after Zena got there when we were there today. Zena looks right now like Charles did his last year at Texas. Charles is a full-grown man body. He's been in the league for a minute now, but you see the physical development with Zena. And we knew it was going to be a slow burn with him. It was going to take a minute, but once he's ready, if the production and the presence can match what you see in front of you, can match the eye test, you got a heck of a player on your hands potentially. So Cade Phillips is another guy, like the length. I saw him walking around. So they're not missing very many, CJ. I think that's the bottom line. There are some years where you get a recruiting class on campus and you say, there's probably 2 or 3 guys in here that you might put back. That hadn't been the case with Sark, and that's especially the case. This 2025 class is special.
And if I can add to that, the portal class, again, just bumping into Brad Spence, who looks like he has the upper body of a guy that plays nose, right? Yeah. He is pretty stout from – the pecs up, his biceps are big, looks like a guy that you don't want to see rushing off the edge or up the middle if you're an interior guard. Cole Brevard, saw him as well. Travis Shaw, these guys, they all look like they're going to be competing in this setting again next year, which is kind of what Texas hopes as they move towards a younger interior and front 7 room on defense.
Yeah, I think Texas, to something we talked about a minute ago, and to wrap it up, I think Texas has proven itself to be a place, hey, if you're a guy in the portal looking for, whether you're looking for another chance or a chance to start, a chance to boost your NFL stock and win football games, you can do both at Texas. You can help them win in the SEC. You're going to play against great competition. You're going to get developed by the staff there, and you're going to have a chance to play, not just play in the league, maximize your value going to the league. I think whether it's A.D. Mitchell, just go down the list of the portal guys we've talked about, guys have maximized their value coming out of Texas. Matthew Golden's done that this year. Isaiah Bond had the injury, so it was tough for him to do, but that's one of those things you can't control.
Right.
If it's in the realm of things you can control, Sark and the staff have been as good as anybody in terms of getting guys out of the portal and getting the most out of it.
And that kind of carries into what we talked about this morning, right? When we look at this Texas roster, where do they need to supplement positions, right? Yeah. I think wide receiver we know is going to be a position Texas is actively looking for a guy at. But I also look at tight end because I think Texas does, or at least needs some sort of help in that room. Maybe not a front end guy. Maybe we'll see what these guys look like after 15 practices in spring. But somebody to come in at least showcase that they've been to Ohio State or Georgia or the Swamp. Because right now Texas doesn't have that. The confidence I have in Texas finding those guys was on display once again for the second, really third straight year. When you start looking back at what this staff originally brought in. This time, there's a concerted effort into finding guys that fit the culture, fit the locker room, and also come in and put up to really impressive times as well.
And it's nice to hear guys like Isaiah Bond and Silas Bolden that were only here for a year talk about things like culture and how it is different at Texas from where they were previously. And I mean, Isaiah Bond came from playing for Nick Saban.
Yeah.
You know, that Oregon State program under Jonathan Smith where Silas Bolden was, that was a good program. So, you know, to hear guys talk about culture and how things are functioning at a high level on the 40 after being here only a year, it just reinforces that this isn't fool's gold.
Yeah.
What Sark is doing, it's real, it's tangible. You can see the results, and what we're seeing, we're not being fooled. They haven't done this with smoke and mirrors. They've done this with hard work. They've done this with culture. They've built this the right way, and that's why you've got a team that's going to compete in the SEC again this year.
I was going to say that exact thing. It's not just fodder, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not just something that you hear these guys talk about. Each guy that we heard, whether it be a Gunnar Helm, Jake Majors, you know, guys who spent years in this program, watched it from Sarkisian's first day to their last day here in Austin. You know, that's something that they hope and are planning on trickling down into this group. So I thought that was encouraging. And again, when the draft comes around 1 month from today, essentially, Tech's going to hear their name quite a bit, and it's going to be very top heavy.
I think going back to something Sean Miller mentioned in the press conference this morning, he was talking about how one of his sons went to South Point Catholic in Tucson with Bijan. And I think you look at the Texas football program under Sark, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Just take this ride with me. You know, this is a program, CJ, for I think a lot of people. You can be Bijan Robinson and be a 5-star recruit and be here 3 years and go to the league and be a first-round pick, or you can be Gunnar Helm and be one of the lowest valued, lowest ranked, lowest rated guys in your recruiting class and kind of be, you know, left for dead, for lack of a better term, after a coaching change and work your tail off and get developed and go to the league in 4 years.
Right.
You know, there's multiple paths to the league now at Texas. It hasn't always been, but you're getting your 4 and 5-star guys developed, but the Gunnar Helms and the guys like Jonathan Brooks, a guy like Hayden Connor that's got an NFL future now. You know, you can be kind of that under the radar guy and get developed at Texas. So it's considering the alternative, what it was for the previous decade.
We'll take
it's a heck of a thing right now.
One more note I'll add to that. I talked to Cam Williams. We don't really get to talk to Cam Williams during his 3 years in Austin, but got to talk to him very briefly after his day in Austin. He didn't participate, obviously, because of the knee injury. But I asked him, I was like, how did you end up at Texas? Obviously committed to Oregon. Cristobal takes the Miami job. He starts reconsidering. But he said that whole time, Kyle Flood was on me. You know, I knew if there was a conversation, a phone call, it was likely going to be Kyle Flood. If that's not a recurring theme of what we've seen essentially, or especially really late in cycles, I don't know what is, because he was not coming to Texas until things change. You hang around the rim per Jerry Hamilton, and all of a sudden you got yourself a 3-and-done right tackle who's going to have a pretty lengthy career in the NFL.
Yeah, it's nice to go to Pro Day and have the head coaches and the GMs and the personnel people stick around for the O-line workouts. Everybody just doesn't get up and leave. So it's nice for a change to have that. So
absolutely,
man, it's you know, a big day of obviously football and basketball, but you know, you see the young talent in this program, you see the talent leaving, and just the buzz with this program. Like I said, it's not smoke and mirrors, man, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. You know, it's Sark has this thing rolling, and we talk about it. I heard Bobby mention this, and he talked about it with Rod and Blake on Coffee and Football Monday morning or Tuesday morning. You know, the NFL buzz or the allure of it is going to be there for Sark. It's not going anywhere. But I think Sark really wants to see through, can he win a national championship doing it his way at Texas?
Yep.
He's knocked on the door. Can Texas go kick it down? And you've got the quarterback to do it. You've got the talent around him to do it. You've got the staff to do it. Now it's just a matter of, can you go do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's not going to go anywhere with Arch Manning now at the helm for Texas, who will be throwing in some capacity here next year, whether it's his pro day, whether it's just him helping out the wide receivers that are off to the NFL next year. But
somewhere our guy David Ash is saying, please just don't ask me again. Please.
I'm telling you, they need to throw his jersey up in the bubble rafters, because his pro day, year in, year out tape was tremendous. So,
hey,
what he did for the program.
Every time I saw David Ash throw for pro day, he did it with a smile on his face, and he looked dog tired after he was done. But man, salute to you, David Ash, for your pro day contributions over the years.
Absolutely. Well, that will do it for today and the 2025 Texas Pro Day. Again, the draft 30 days from today. We will have all and more Pro Day coverage at ontexasfootball.com. Come join the community. Jeff and I will be loading it up over the next week or so.
We're draft sickos, man.
Yeah.
I'm a sick person when it comes to the draft. So this is my time of year.
And of course, with all the coaches that we just mentioned that were on campus, it's our best guess and everybody else's best guess as to where these guys get drafted. But we'll fodder over it all, Jeff. So you guys stay tuned to the
Texas
channel.
Fans can watch the draft all 3 days.
Yeah.
You're watching it for the first round, and then those 2 and 3, and then day 3 you're still gonna have guys taken. So
it's gonna be a blast. Texas, many guys predicted Texas would break the record, and I agree, 13, maybe 14 this year. But for Jeff Howe, I'm CJ Vogel. This has been On Texas Football. Until next time, hook 'em.